Hello everybody and welcome to today's video looking at how I built the J-35J Draken from Hasegawa in 1/72nd scale. As I stated in the unboxing video, which hopefully there will be a link appearing now, check that out if you haven't already, I just think this plane is cool. It just looks cool. It's a very pointy thing, it's different, it's unique, it's the Draken. It's very, very Swedish. And as July 2026 marks 100 years of the Swedish Air Force, there is no better time for you to all rush out and add Drakens to your collection. So that's what I did. Here's how I built it. Let's get on with it. According to ScaleMates, this tooling was originally released in 1994, with this particular version following shortly afterwards. I've counted about 64 parts, give or take counting error. There are 2 decal schemes included, but for recommended retail price, I've not really been able to include one because it's not something which is easy to get hold of at the moment. The most recent release of this tooling was actually under the Hobby 2000 brand, which was around the £20 mark here in the UK, so treat that as a sort of guide if you like. Construction begins with the rather sparse cockpit area. I think they've put enough detail in to at least give the impression that there is something in there, but it really is very basic. It's essentially just a seat that goes onto this sort of bucket component type thing. There is a control column for the pilot to wiggle, and there is an instrument panel that will go in as well, but there is no real sidewall detail, nothing inside the fuselage or anything like that. It is just a very simplistic, but I suppose the bare minimum's covered type of cockpit, which is fairly standard for this era of Hasegawa. It could perhaps be improved by giving it a pilot, not just because that gives you more options, but also because it would cover up some of the rather basic details. There are plenty of holes that need drilling for this version. You can see that there's lots of indentations on the inside. Make sure you drill out this one before you attempt to put the cockpit in. Just a bit of advice. How did I learn that? I'll pretend I didn't. But these on the wings, it always looks weird because it's part of the bottom of the fuselage, but the ones on the inboard of the wings are for weapon stores, and the drop tanks go in these large slots. The ones at the front are for, it's a radar, I believe. And then the actual cockpit itself can be stuck into this bottom fuselage stroke wing piece, just suspended on these 3 little pins, which isn't great. So I'm dry fitting using the top to make sure that it is absolutely in the right place, especially the angle of the instrument panel, as that can be positioned in multiple places. There's also this sight which is for the radar, I believe, so it's a scope for the pilot to look down. And that can be stuck on at this stage, or it can be stuck on later if you want. I stuck it on this stage and it worked out alright for me. But just bear in mind that there is a decal to go underneath. This all goes around the radar scope as well. We've also got these extra things, sensors, not entirely sure, that go behind the pilot. So I've glued those on to this top fuselage piece and glued that on as well as the tail. I'm trying to get as much of it stuck together as possible, as much of the weight stuck together as possible, so that I can assess how much weight it is going to need, because yes, weight will be needed. I've gone off script for this next bit. I'm using a mix of RLM 82 and Dark Sea Grey for the interior colour, so I'm mixing it together to make a much greener grey, or a much greyer green. I think it's a grey green. I actually watched the Inside the Cockpit video by Military Aviation History just to get an idea of what the exact Draken that they looked at was painted, and this colour seemed to suit much better than the instructions suggested. Other components that I've assembled at this stage include the exhaust, which is probably the weirdest fitting of them because it's an oblong with a circle in it, and obviously you've got to then line the circle up with an oblong. It's a bit weird, could have been better. And then we move on to these decals. This is the one that I mentioned, a decal that goes around the radar scope. When I looked ahead in the instructions, I just thought it's fine if I cut around the actual instrument panel decal, it should be absolutely fine, and it was. Perhaps a little bit fiddlier. Yes, you could put it on first and then put the block over the top of it, but hey, it worked out alright in this case. The instructions state that 5 grams of ballast is needed, and it gives you space inside the nose for that. So I'm getting out the Deluxe Materials liquid gravity, which is of course solid matter, and pouring it into the nose cone. My scales are unfortunately very temperamental and don't work very well down at low weights, so I wasn't entirely sure if that was going to be enough. So I've put some more there in front of the pilot's instruments and things as well, before then sliding the top of the fuselage onto the bottom of the fuselage, and the nose cone going on top. This will be enough weight, spoilers, it will be enough. I don't know if just the nose cone would have been, your experience may vary, but I would have been very disappointed had this not sat on its nose, so therefore I put extra weight in, why not? We've also got things like the engine intakes, and basically just everything else at this stage which can be glued on, including that really awkward tail bit, which is probably the worst fitting bit of the entire model. I don't know, something about either the way that I built it or the way that it's designed. Probably the way that I built it, but it did stand out as everything else seemed to be fine. I don't know, has anyone that's built this had a problem with the tail? If so, then maybe it's a design flaw. If not, I'm just going to put it down to me being a little bit incompetent at times. At this stage of the build, everything else essentially just gets glued on. So put on as much as you think you can paint around and leave off anything that you think will need to be painted separately. So with the tail done, the outer wing panels, I'm reluctant to call them wing tips because they can actually remove on the real Draken, but yes, the wings go on, and I'm putting the selection of little fins and antennas and things, as well as the undercarriage doors as well. The instructions don't offer a version of building this kit with the undercarriage up and the doors closed, but looking at it, there's very little you'd have to do to actually close it. You just cut the tabs off, fold the doors down, all is good. We've also got what I assume is some sort of backup generator on it, which I quite like. I would often leave a lot of this stuff off until after I've painted it. However, because of the colour scheme that I'm choosing, and because I thought I would just have to be really careful and try not to drop it like I normally do, then it would probably work out alright, and I'm pleased to report that it did. So whilst I'm putting on these final parts, I just want to mention a weird psychological condition I have with Hasegawa plastic. It always feels cheap and nasty, and I don't think it is. I think the plastic quality is fine. The end result shows that it's fine, but when I'm building the model, when I'm handling it, I always think, ugh, this is low-grade, horrible, cheap model. Well, it isn't. It just isn't. It's a weird psychological thing, in the same way that if I see brightly coloured plastic, I think that that is cheap and tacky and horrible as well, even though it is normally exactly the same quality of plastic. Weird and probably entirely irrational, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. Now, unfortunately, the aircraft does have a few gaps, and whilst I'm not one for pouring filler over things because I'm usually quite lazy, this time I really had to, because look where they are. So I've added this liquid green stuff right on the port and starboard sides of it's the wing roots, it's the fuselage. Because it's a top and bottom sort of situation, it's not fuselage sides, it is really obvious, and so just a little bit of filler will tidy that up, make it look like it's one piece rather than the obvious top and bottom fuselage sections. I know I'm just lazy for not adding filler to most models, but I thought, as I don't normally add filler to things, and I did on here, it was worth a mention. I've also put the weapon hardpoints on, I think 3 of these broke whilst I was painting it and masking it and manhandling it, so maybe you'd avoid it until after the paint is applied. But I did look at the instructions and see that the decals were not going to be underneath them, so I put on as much as possible, which I know is weird for me, but hey, sometimes you've got to try it just to realise why you do it your normal way. This is also one of the models that I will be doing with the canopy on, masked, and then painted, as opposed to brush painting the canopy afterwards, because again, laziness. So I'm gluing in the single transparency that goes in front of the pilot, and then we have a separate windscreen and canopy piece, which fits on beautifully. So they were just glued on with standard polycement so that we can mask it off and get ready for some primer. My standard Vallejo black primer, loaded into the airbrush, not thinned, just painted over the entirety of the aircraft. And this weird psychological effect that I have with the plastic is completely removed after this point, because now I'm manhandling a primed surface and going, wow, actually, you know what, the surface detail is bloody good, because it is good. It's a beautiful model. Up to this point, it was one of the best things that I've built this year, if I'm honest, and that's a 1990s Hasegawa tool. Anyway, right, black primer on, we're going to go to this Aggressor Grey, which I know is not strictly speaking correct for a Swedish aircraft, but I don't have a Swedish paint set, and I didn't really want to buy one because I don't have enough Swedish aircraft to justify it. So this Aggressor Grey is being used as the pale-ish, medium-ish grey, should we say medium grey, being used on the underside of the aircraft. It's the closest of the greys that I had available, in my opinion, having looked at plenty of photos of Draken. However, the centre of the fuselage needs to be silver, so I've now got this Model Air RLM01 metallic silver. This isn't the most metallic of metal paints, nor is it the most flat of metal paints. I'm enjoying it. I've used it on a few models now, and I can see myself using this much more frequently. I'm so used to metallic paint spluttering everywhere that I have added extra tape. I've been a bit more generous with the tape to cover up every bit of grey, just so that I don't ruin it and have to redo it. For the top surface, and sticking with the Model Air range, I've gone for this USAF Olive Drab, which will be applied over the entirety of the top surfaces. Relying on just the name of a colour olive drab isn't very helpful because some olive drab is very brown and some is very green. It is a wide spectrum, it fades differently, and even during the Second World War, for example, there were multiple different mixes that were used. So I used pictures of a display aircraft, which I thought would give a nice, cleaner finish, which is generally how I like my models to look. And I've been impressed with this paint on a few other builds lately, so I thought it was logical to use it on Draken as well. For the other top colour, I've gone for this dark grey, which is from a British set. It's quite a tricky colour when you look it up online. Some will say it's a much bluer shade, others will say it's sort of a grey green colour. So I've used pictures of a display aircraft, again, to try and get that nice, fresh paint finish rather than an incredibly weathered one. And this was, again, the closest that I had in my collection. I didn't really want to go out and buy separate paints for this aircraft, even though I love Draken. I don't see myself making too many more Swedish aircraft. So this was the one which I thought would look fine. Oh, and as you can see, I've masked the area off with blue tack squiggles, the old blue tack worm technique. Jumping ahead a little bit, I have masked off the leading edges of the tail surfaces and the wings to paint them silver, and then I've masked off the nose and the tail to have some white, as you can see here. Over the top of the white, I'm adding RLM 04, which is a nice sort of orangey yellow. It's the best yellow that I have, that's why I use it, but it looks best in my eyes over a white base. So yes, spraying it white first and then yellow for those parts, before painting black on the nose cone itself and moving on to some gloss varnish. I haven't shown it, but I've just sprayed everything in some Vallejo gloss varnish thinned with some Hasegawa thinner before we move on to the decals. And the decals on the sheet look absolutely fine. You've got some large ones, some small ones. The backing film, again, looks fine, but they are a little bit chaotically placed. They're all over the sheet. I much prefer it when you have Scheme A at the top, Scheme B at the bottom, that sort of thing. I'm not using any decal solutions at all on this build. The gloss varnish provides a nice smooth finish for you to put your decals on, and then you can just maneuver them around with a stick. There are quite a lot of decals, quite a lot of small ones, not so much stenciling, but there's just quite a lot of emblems and things. The ones that I found the most difficult, however, were actually the Swedish crowns, because this is not a very straight aircraft. It's all angles, all sharp, beautiful angles, and trying to get the crowns on so that they're straight every time. Every single Swedish aircraft I do, it gets me, trying to get them right. For me though, the star of the scheme are these fish on both upper and lower surfaces. In fact, there's quite a lot of them. There's some on the tail and on emblems as well. I did refer to these as sharks in the unboxing, and apparently they're swordfish. But look, I'm not a fishologist. I'm just here to make models of planes. I like planes. With weird shapes like this, you've got to make sure that you just pull and push them in the right way, the right angles, rather than folding them over. With them on, everything has been matte varnished, the tape has been removed, and we are starting to see what this is going to look like when it is finished. And you can also see that at least two of the hard points have been broken off at this point. Still, we have undercarriage, which has square holes for a round wheel. That just makes sure that you get them in the right way round. You can't physically glue them upside down. The wheels, of course, have already been painted. I tend to paint those sorts of things on the sprues, which just makes life a lot easier. We also have the tail wheels, which are just to prevent the tail from hitting the deck when you're on a sharp angle. And then we have the drop tanks in top and bottom parts. You just glue them together and then they can be glued onto the hard points on the centerline of the fuselage. This just leaves the pitot tube on the front of the nose, and it was bent and warped. As you can see, the plastic part did not come off the sprue very well, and it was already bent on there. It wasn't ideal. So I've got this guitar string, lined it up with the plastic pitot tube, and then you just dip one end in some super glue and you hold it until it sets and make sure it looks more or less correct. And with that, the Draken is done. I'm aware that I am biased because, as I said, I think Draken is cool, but genuinely, this was one of the most enjoyable build experiences I have had in a long time. Do I think it is the best kit out there? Well, no, because it doesn't quite have the detail of what you'd expect for newer toolings. For example, as mentioned, you've got the cockpit, but also things like the engine. There isn't one. You just look straight in the intakes and you're looking straight in the wing. Okay, there is an exhaust, so you can see the back of an engine, but you would kind of expect a newer tool to have a little bit more finesse. The detail is absolutely fine. I've seen better, I've seen a lot worse. It is okay. The fit was absolutely fine, but there were still places, as you saw, where I felt I needed to add some filler, mostly because of the way that it was designed. But something about building this just felt right. One thing that I'm not really a fan of with scale modelling is masking. I just find it incredibly tedious, and yet this model required quite a lot of masking and it didn't annoy me, and I think it's because I was genuinely looking forward to seeing it done. And then when I put those decals on, yeah, again, there's quite a few of them. You've got those big fish just slapped on the wings. You've got the bright yellow sort of stripe around the nose. Actually, it's not that bright yellow, but you've got the yellow stripes. You've got the lovely camouflage. The underneath as well, you've got multiple colours underneath because you've got the aluminium and you've got the grey. Watching it come together genuinely made me smile. I was trying to find time to make sure that I could work on this to get it done as well as I could. And I think that is a key thing about modelling that sometimes people forget. I know I can be a bit guilty of it as well, but it doesn't have to be the newest kit. It doesn't have to necessarily be the best kit. It just has to be an enjoyable kit. And this really was. I don't want my kit to put up a fight and for me to have to drag it kicking and screaming into looking like a half-decent model. I want the base of the model to be good enough that when I assemble it, I want to go the extra effort to make it look that little bit nicer. And the end result is that I have a plane that sits on the corner of my shelf, and every time I walk into the room I go, oh yeah, oh that looks alright, I'm happy with that. So yes, to summarise, both thumbs up. This is a beautiful build. I had a great time building it and would thoroughly recommend it if you see it around in the second-hand market for a reasonable price. I wouldn't be paying 40-50 quid for this thing personally, but for the £20 mark this will give you a decent few hours worth of enjoyment. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think this looks decent? Do you have the same weird psychological effect with certain brands of plastic, or do you think I'm just mad? And do you agree ultimately that it doesn't have to be the best kit in the world, doesn't have to be the newest kit in the world, it just has to be a model of a Draken and you'll enjoy it? If you've liked the video, you could give it a thumbs up, and if you've disliked it, you can give it a thumbs down. If you're not a subscriber and you watch my content, then please consider subscribing. It will just ensure that I pop up in your feed and you can watch more. And of course it makes numbers go up, and I like watching numbers go up. You could also consider becoming a channel member like the people appearing on screen. With a regular donation each month you can be privy to spoilers, because I work quite far ahead at the moment because I've got a big backlog of models, so you can see when things are actually on my desk and we engage in a conversation based on that, as well as things like emotes and members only polls and that sort of thing. If you're not interested, if you can't afford it, don't want to, absolutely fine. Just continuing to watch my videos is enough gratification for me. So thank you very much for watching this far. I will hopefully see you again either in the comment section of something or in another video at some point in the future. On that note, I have some non-Swedish things to build. Boo! So hopefully see you then. Goodbye.